discovered a horrifying scene in Smithfield, Virginia, when a drug raid turned into a dogfighting ring bust. On April 25th, 2007, Michael Vick's world was turned upside down. But tonight, I'm not going to waste anyone's time talking about him because he's had plenty of press coverage and I frankly don't care for him. So instead tonight, I'm going to tell you about some of the good things that did come out of the whole ordeal. That day, back in April 2007, 54 pit bulls were given a second chance to experience what a dog's life should be like. As you may remember from a lot of the local news coverage, many animal rights groups such as the Humane Society of the United States and People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, called for euthanasia of these animals because they claimed they had been too badly abused and emotionally neglected in order for ever to be rehabilitated. However, 11 other animal rights groups did come together and petition the court asking to give these dogs second chances. And in fall 2007, a judge granted them custody of all but one of the 54 pit bulls, and gave them a second chance to learn what love and affection are all about. Michael Vick did have to pay close to $1 million to help cover the costs of the behavioral assessments of these animals and the care for the remainder of their lives. But of course, that wasn't quite enough to cover everything. But most of these organizations do receive donations from members of society, so they're able to get by with that. Now, Best Friends Animal Society in Kanab, Utah, took in the 22 most challenging of the pit bulls. They're all pictured right here. And since these animals probably never knew life outside of a cage or a fighting pit, each dog underwent behavioral assessment and had personalized emotional rehabilitation plans designed for each one. In January of 2008, 8 months after being rescued from the property in Smithfield, they were transported to this sanctuary located in Kanab, Utah. One of the veterinarians there is an expert in mental health and emotional well-being of animals, and he took the approach of treating these animals as though they were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which many of you know soldiers coming back from war often suffer from. But of course, the challenge with the animals is the animal can't tell you what's affecting them, so they had to study each specific animal's behavior and figure out what it could be that each animal was afraid of, and the best ways to try to get those animals to accept people again and accept other animals again. Probably the most famous of the pit bulls, and they're collectively known now as the Victory Dogs, is Georgia. She's been featured on the Ellen DeGeneres Show, Larry King Live, and on the cover of the New York Times. But of course, her story has not always been so great. She's one of the oldest dogs seized from the property in Smithfield. She was likely a champion fighter and had been bred repeatedly because of her championship status. Her teeth had been purposely removed so that she would not harm a male during the forced breeding that they put her under. And of course, when she came to Best Friends, she didn't trust anybody, but I wouldn't either after going through all of that. John Garcia is one of the trainers at Dogtown, which is the dog area of the sanctuary, and he was able to form a very special bond with her. He often refers to her as his favorite of all the pit bulls. And through love, affection, and patience, he was able to teach her the simple things in life, such as learning how to sit, stay, and get treats for everything she does right. When on her first attempt to pass the American Kennel Club Good Citizenship Test, she passed 6 out of the 10 required criteria, which is pretty good considering what she'd been through and that she learned all that in a matter of a few months. Passing the AKC Good Citizenship Test is one of the court-ordered requirements for any dog that is going to be put up for adoption. Another one of the Victory Dogs, a little guy named Cherry, also came to Best Friends, and when he arrived at Best Friends, he was terrified of his own shadow. He flattened his body out on the ground, cowered in the back of his cage, or his run as they call it there, was afraid of all people, and had to be carried everywhere because he was afraid of a leash. Based on his behavior, the staff at Best Friends speculate that he was a former bait dog who used to train the other dogs. But again, he was also able to form a bond with this girl, Michelle. She's the manager of Dogtown. And also through love, patience, and a lot of affection, she was able to get Cherry to come out of the shell, and he found his social side. And because he was more comfortable with other dogs, a big part of his rehabilitation was playing with other dogs. So he spent a lot of time just running around and having a good old time. And 6 months after being featured on the show Dogtown, his adoption proceedings began, and he is now living in his forever home with a pit bull mix and a cat named Emmy. And his new parents got in touch with the parents of one of the Victory dogs, Handsome Dan, and these two have regular play dates together now. So they've been able to stay in touch, and they're always, according to emails, they're always playing together. Now, 2 of the 22 Victory dogs that went to Best Friends are required to live their lives out at the sanctuary. These are Meryl and Lucas. Meryl has shown extreme aggression towards people, more so than a lot of the other dogs. And Lucas was the highest prize winning of the prize fight. He made the most money for dog fighting. So he's probably considered pretty valuable to the underground world of dog fighting. So to make sure that he doesn't get back into that world, he will live his life out at the shelter. And I actually have been to the shelter. I was there last summer, and it is a gorgeous place, blue skies, Red Rock Mountains, and just wonderful people everywhere. So these dogs have it pretty good to stay there the rest of their lives. I wouldn't mind going there for the rest of my life. Now, even though it is tragic what happened on that property in Smithfield, the lessons learned from these dogs is that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Pit bulls are athletic, intelligent, and anxious to please their people. Unfortunately, these traits make them the #1 choice for dog fighting. But on the flip side of that, these traits also make them ideal for rehabilitation. And while it is sad that it took a story of this magnitude to put dog fighting in the nation's spotlight and to get so much attention to it, a lot of people have been educated on the dangers of dog fighting. Education is the #1 action that will hopefully one day put it to an end. Georgia, Cherry, and the remaining Victory dogs have been given a much-deserved second chance to learn how to overcome their fears and enjoy a dog's life. And some people can consider these dogs as poster children for rehabilitation, showing us all that no matter what our past holds, our future can always be brighter.